Picture this. It's 170 AD. A man sits alone in a military camp on the freezing banks of the Danube River. Around him, war rages. Disease spreads through his armies. His empire crumbles at the edges. He's exhausted, in pain, watching people he loves die from plague. But this man, the most powerful person in the known world, isn't screaming. He isn't breaking. Instead, he's writing. And what he wrote in those dark moments became one of the most powerful books ever created. A book that 1,800 years later is still changing lives. Including mine. And by the end of this video, it's going to change yours too. That man was Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. And here's the mind-blowing part. He never meant for anyone to read his words. This wasn't a book written for fame or followers. This was his private journal. His personal therapy session. His nightly ritual to stay sane while leading an empire through hell. And inside those pages? A secret so powerful that everyone from Silicon Valley CEOs to Navy SEALs to therapists treating anxiety disorders use it today. The secret? It's not about controlling the world around you. It's about mastering the one thing you actually have complete power over, your mind. Stay with me, because I'm about to show you exactly how Marcus Aurelius used this ancient wisdom to handle impossible pressure. And more importantly, how you can use these same techniques to transform your life starting today. Before we dive into the techniques, you need to understand who Marcus really was. Because this isn't just philosophy from some academic in an ivory tower. Marcus Aurelius was Roman emperor from 161 to 180 CE, and his reign was brutal. Wars, plague, rebellions, and the deaths of friends and family marked his time as emperor. Imagine having that much responsibility, that much suffering, that much chaos. Most people would crumble. Most people would become bitter, angry, or drunk on power. But Marcus did something different. Every night, probably by candlelight after another exhausting day of leading armies and making life or death decisions, he wrote to himself. He reminded himself how to be better, how to stay strong, how to keep going. He practiced what's called spiritual exercises, reminders designed to make him humble, patient, empathetic, generous, and strong in the face of whatever he was dealing with. And here's what makes this so powerful for you and me. If these techniques worked for someone dealing with literal wars and plagues and betrayals, imagine what they can do for your Monday morning stress, your difficult boss, your anxiety about the future. The Stoics had a radical idea, that happiness doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from how you think about what happens to you. And that's where the transformation begins. Let me hit you with Marcus's most powerful insight first. This is the one that changes everything. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about that for a second. Really think about it. How much of your mental energy right now is spent worrying about things you can't control? Your coworker's opinion of you, whether you'll get that promotion, what your ex is doing, the economy, the weather, what someone said about you. Here's the brutal truth. Worrying about these things is like trying to control the wind. It's impossible, and it's exhausting. Marcus understood something that most people never figure out. There are only two categories of things in life. Things you control, and things you don't. That's it. And only virtue is good, only vice is bad, and the things we normally concern ourselves with are all indifferent to our happiness. What can you control? Your thoughts, your reactions, your effort, your character, your choices in this very moment. What can't you control? Pretty much everything else. Other people's behavior, the past, the future, external outcomes. And here's where it gets interesting. When you really internalize this, when you stop fighting reality and start focusing only on what's in your power, something incredible happens. The anxiety lifts. The mental noise quiets down. You suddenly have all this energy you were wasting on impossible battles, and you can redirect it toward actually improving your life. I'll give you a real example. Let's say you're stuck in traffic. You've got an important meeting. You're going to be late. The normal response? Rage, honking, stress. Your blood pressure skyrockets. You show up to the meeting rattled and exhausted before it even begins. The Stoic response? You recognize immediately. The traffic is outside your control. Your meeting started time is outside your control. But your reaction? Totally within your control. You can choose to call ahead. You can choose to use the time to prepare mentally. You can choose to stay calm and focused. Same situation, completely different experience. Why? Because you focused your mental energy on what you could actually control. The Stoics taught that anxiety, frustration, and mental suffering arise almost exclusively from attempting to control what lies outside your power. Let that sink in. Most of your suffering comes from fighting battles you can't win. Here's where Marcus gets really deep. And honestly, this one changed my entire perspective on life. He wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This isn't just philosophical poetry. This is neuroscience. This is psychology. This is how your brain actually works. Think about it this way: two people experience the exact same event. One person is devastated, the other is totally fine. What's the difference? It's not the event itself. It's how they interpret it. The story they tell themselves about what it means. Here's a real scenario. You get critical feedback on a project at work. Person A thinks, "I'm terrible at this. I'm going to get fired. Everyone thinks I'm incompetent. I'm a failure." Person B thinks, "Interesting. There's something here I can improve. This feedback is actually helping me get better. I'm grateful someone cared enough to tell me." Same feedback, completely different mental experience. Why? Because our emotional reactions are shaped by our internal beliefs and interpretations, not by the events themselves. The Stoics call this cognitive reframing, and modern psychologists have built entire therapeutic approaches around it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective treatments for anxiety and depression, is literally based on Stoic principles. Marcus focused on taking control of his own emotions and achieving tranquility independent of the social context. He wrote, "It's not what they do that bothers us. That's a problem for their minds, not ours. This is revolutionary. Someone insults you, they're not making you angry. Your thoughts about the insult are making you angry. And since you control your thoughts, you can change your emotional experience." Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like toxic positivity. You're telling me to just think happy thoughts and ignore real problems? No, that's not what this is. This isn't about denial, it's about clarity. It's about seeing reality as it actually is, not through the distorted lens of your unchecked thoughts and emotions. Bad things happen, people treat you poorly, life isn't fair, but here's what Marcus understood. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The suffering you experience isn't proportional to what happens to you. It's proportional to what you tell yourself about what happens to you. And when you realize you have the power to shape your thoughts, you realize you have the power to shape your entire experience of life. Alright, here's where Marcus really nails something that plagues modern life. We're never actually here. You're sitting at dinner with your family, but you're mentally replaying an argument from yesterday. Or you're in the middle of a workout, but you're worrying about a deadline next week. Or you're lying in bed trying to sleep, but your mind is racing through 1,000 scenarios about the future. Marcus recognized that the inability of most people to live in the present disrupts the quality of their thoughts. We dwell on the past. We worry about the future. We're everywhere except where we actually are, right now. And here's the tragedy. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens. It's the only place where you can take action. It's the only place where you have power. Marcus used a powerful technique to stay present. He'd remind himself of the impermanence of everything. Not in a depressing way, but in a liberating way. He'd think about how brief life is. How fleeting this moment is. How everything, the good and the bad, eventually passes. Think about the last time you were really stressed about something. Maybe it was a presentation, or a confrontation, or waiting for test results. Remember how consuming it felt? How it took over your entire mental space? Now think, where is that stress now? It's gone. That moment passed. All that suffering was temporary. And yet, while you were in it, it felt permanent. Aurelius advocates considering everlasting time and thinking of the rapid change in the parts of each thing, reminding us how short the journey is from birth to dissolution. This isn't about being morbid. It's about perspective. When you remember that this moment, this day, this problem, this entire life is temporary, you stop sweating the small stuff. You stop wasting your precious time on things that don't matter. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you truly accept the impermanence of everything, you actually appreciate the present moment more. That dinner with your family becomes precious because you realize it won't last forever. That workout becomes meaningful because you understand your health is temporary. That quiet morning becomes sacred because you know one day there won't be any more quiet mornings. Marcus wrote his meditations knowing that one day, no one would remember his name. He contemplated, near is your forgetfulness of all things, and near the forgetfulness of you by all. He was the most powerful man in the world, and he knew it would all fade. And yet, 1,800 years later, we're still talking about him. Not because of his power. Because of his wisdom. Because of how he chose to think. Now we're getting to the really transformative stuff. This is the technique that separates people who just survive life from people who actually thrive. The Stoics had this concept called amor fati, love of fate. And before you think this sounds like some passive, roll over and accept everything attitude, let me explain what it really means. Amor fati isn't about being a doormat. It's about this: whatever happened, happened. Whatever is happening, is happening. You can spend your energy wishing things were different, or you can accept reality as it is and ask, given this situation, what's the best move I can make? Marcus faced unimaginable challenges. Plague, rebellions, wars, and the deaths of people he loved marked his reign. He could have spent every day bitter about his circumstances. Why me? I didn't ask for this. This isn't fair. Instead, he chose to see every obstacle as an opportunity. Every challenge as a chance to practice virtue. Every difficulty as training. He wrote that nature takes every obstacle, every impediment, and works around it, turns it to its purposes. Just like nature, a rational person can turn each setback into raw material to achieve their goal. Think about the most difficult period of your life. The breakup, the job loss, the illness, the betrayal. In the moment, it felt like the end of the world, right? But I bet if you look back now, you can see how that difficult period taught you something. Made you stronger, led you to opportunities you wouldn't have found otherwise. Showed you who your real friends were. Forced you to develop skills you didn't know you needed. That's amor fati in action. Not just accepting what happened, but recognizing that it was necessary. That it was part of your path. That it made you who you are. And here's the radical part. When you adopt this mindset going forward, you become essentially unstoppable. Because every obstacle just becomes fuel. Every setback just becomes a setup. Every bad thing that happens just becomes an opportunity to practice your philosophy and prove your character. The Stoics believed that adversity is not a hindrance but a catalyst for growth. Suffering isn't something to be avoided at all costs. It's something to be transformed into wisdom and strength. You start asking different questions. Not, why is this happening to me? But, what is this trying to teach me? Not, how can I avoid this? But, how can I use this? It's like mental alchemy. You're taking the lead of difficult circumstances and transmuting it into the gold of wisdom and character. Let me clear up a huge misconception about Stoicism right now, because this trips people up all the time. When people hear Stoic, they think emotionless robot. Cold, unfeeling, repressed. That's not Stoicism. That's trauma. The Stoics believed in understanding and managing emotions in a way that aligns with our values and virtues, not suppressing them. Marcus felt emotions deeply. He grieved. He felt frustration. He experienced fear. He was human. The difference? He didn't let those emotions control him. He didn't let them dictate his actions. He developed the capacity to observe thoughts without being enslaved by them, to feel emotions without being controlled by them. Think of it like this. Emotions are data. They're information. Fear tells you something might be dangerous. Anger tells you a boundary has been crossed. Sadness tells you that you lost something valuable. But here's the key, just because you feel an emotion doesn't mean you have to act on it. You can feel angry without screaming. You can feel afraid without running away. You can feel sad without falling into despair. The dynamic interaction between the emotional part of your brain and the rational part allows for the rational brain to override emotional signals. And with practice, this override becomes more effortless. Marcus would pause. He'd observe his emotional reaction. He'd ask himself, is this response helpful? Is this who I want to be? Is this in line with my values? For example, when someone betrayed him or treated him poorly, his first impulse might have been rage. But then he'd think, this person is acting according to their nature. Getting angry helps neither of them nor me. What's the wise response here? He recognized that unhealthy passions like anger actually do us more harm than the things we're upset about. The betrayal might sting, but your anger about the betrayal? That's what really poisons you. This is freedom. When you develop this skill, when you create space between what you feel and how you act, you become powerful. Because no one can manipulate you emotionally anymore. No one can make you angry, or anxious, or fearful. They can do things, sure. But your response? That's yours to choose. So here we are. You've just learned the same techniques that helped the most powerful man in the ancient world maintain his sanity and integrity through impossible circumstances. The dichotomy of control, the power of your thoughts, living in the present, amor fati, emotional mastery. But here's the thing, knowing this intellectually changes nothing. In order to utilize this wisdom to transform your life, repeated practice is required. This is why Marcus kept a journal. Not because he had it all figured out, but because he needed to constantly remind himself. To practice, to train his mind the same way you'd train your body. And that's exactly what I'm challenging you to do starting today. Tonight, before you go to bed, take 5 minutes. Just 5. And write down 3 things. 1. What did I try to control today that was outside my control? And how can I let that go? 2. What difficult situation did I face? And how could I reframe it as an opportunity? 3. What am I grateful for right now, in this present moment? That's it. 5 minutes a day. That's less time than you'll spend scrolling social media before bed. But here's what will happen. Over time, your default patterns will start to shift. You'll catch yourself worrying about something outside your control, and you'll redirect that energy. You'll face a setback, and you'll see the opportunity in it. You'll feel an emotion rising, and you'll choose your response rather than react automatically. This is the transformation Marcus promised. Not overnight, not magically, but through consistent practice, you will fundamentally change how you experience life. Remember that man sitting by the Danube River 1,800 years ago? Writing by candlelight while his world burned? He figured out something that most people never discover in their entire lives. That the quality of your life isn't determined by what happens to you. It's determined by how you choose to think about what happens to you. You have the same power he had, the same choice, the same potential for transformation. Marcus wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Not your circumstances, not your bank account, not other people's opinions, your thoughts. And your thoughts are the one thing in this entire universe that you have complete power over. So stop trying to control the world. Start mastering your mind, because that's where real power lives. That's where real freedom exists. That's where real transformation begins." The wisest emperor in history left you a blueprint. The question is, are you going to use it? Start your practice tonight. 5 minutes. Journal those 3 questions. And if this video shifted something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Drop a comment telling me which Stoic principle hit you hardest. And subscribe because we're just getting started exploring the philosophy that changed my life and can change yours too. Your mind is waiting. Time to take control.